Hey there, what's up? In today's video, we're going to be doing a detailed comparison of Figma's conversion to three popular no-code tools. The first one is going to be Webflow, the second one is going to be Framer, and the third one is going to be Wix Studio. So we're going to be doing this comparison by doing multiple different things. The first thing that we'll be doing in this exercise is we're going to be connecting the Figma plugin for all of these three different platforms with Figma and then our workspaces and then exporting our things there. So this tutorial is hopefully going to teach you that as well. The second thing we're going to be doing is we're going to go from a basic level. We're going to start, and this is just something that I've picked from Untitled UI because I have the license for it. I'm not biasing this exercise by creating my own components. I'm just going to have these three very simple components. Obviously, the first one is simple, the second one is slightly more complex, and the third one is going to be a full landing page. And we're going to be doing this comparison in all of these three tools and see how they fare. So that's the thing we're going to be doing next. And then we're also going to see how to actually export certain styles and variables directly from Figma to some of these tools and whether we have any automation there available right now as well. So without further ado, let's just get started. So I have these three elements that I just want to go ahead and actually convert to these three different platforms. The first thing, however, that we'll be doing is we'll be establishing our connection to all of these three different platforms. So first of all, let's try Framer. So what do you do when you actually have to export a site to Framer? I have to go to the plugins. I have Figma to HTML with Framer. I can just click it and that's it. Probably the most easiest plugin available. As an example, if I have Framer open, here I have Framer open, I can obviously go ahead and increase the size here. Maybe the width can be 1600 pixels or something along those lines. And the great thing about this particular plugin is I can just run it. I don't have to connect to anything. I don't have to do anything. It's just going to copy this thing and I can go and I can paste it here. And as you can see, my particular element is now imported here. Obviously, we're going to do the import. We're going to be importing these different plugins there. But for now, I just want to build that connection between these three multiple tools. So the second thing we're going to be doing is we're going to try to build our connection to Webflow. So we're going to search for Webflow. We have this particular plugin that's directly from Webflow Labs. I'm going to run it and then wait for it to obviously open up. I think I may actually have a connection already. If I probably do not, I'm going to connect it again. So as you can see, it says, okay, there's a connection, but I actually wanted to connect to something else. So I can log out and log back in to show you how that works. So when you actually open the plugin the first time, you're going to receive something like this. I'm going to say that I want to connect my account. So I have all of these accounts. I'm going to say that I want to connect it to maybe my Superb site. So let's go ahead and actually do that. And I'm going to say authorize the application. Once I have it authorized, it's probably going to start working already. And we're going to do the same thing here. We are going to try to draw a rectangle and we're going to try to copy it. Now, the first thing that you see, I cannot copy a rectangle like I did in Framer. Unfortunately, I can try to draw a frame and I can still not copy it. I can draw another frame inside of it and I can still not copy it. I can have some text inside. I can copy the text if I want to. So let me just reduce the size of the text and maybe go ahead and make this line height smaller as well. So I cannot copy the larger frame. In order for me to copy it, I have to convert it into an auto layout. So I'm going to convert this into an auto layout and then it's going to allow me or give me some options, but it's going to say auto copying is still not going to be possible unless I make everything inside an auto layout, which definitely is not going to be the case in a lot of different cases because sometimes you're placing graphical elements and stuff along those lines, which definitely are not always going to be an auto layout. So Webflow fails miserably in their copy paste. But let's go ahead and actually just try the copy paste here. So I have copied this. Now I'm going to go to Webflow and I'm just going to press Command V. So at the very least, it did drop this in. It's there. It's an auto. It's not even an auto layout, unfortunately, is it? Oh, yeah, it is. Apologies. So it's an auto layout. Everything at the very least, to a certain extent, is respected actually. If we have a look at this, padding left and right 43, top and bottom 45. And if we go to this particular frame, that padding is respected, but the padding here, unfortunately, on the container 7662 is also respected. So, I mean, never mind. I was thinking it wasn't respected, but I wasn't able to see it because of the similar background. So that's obviously your Figma to Webflow comparison. Now, the plugin Figma to Webflow actually offers a lot more flexibility because now you can actually go ahead and create certain sections directly in Figma. If I was to just quickly show an example, I already have a video on this, but just as a reference, I can convert this into an auto layout. I can say this is up and down, and now I can, let's say I want to include a navigation on the left. So that's the navigation. I'm going to include my hero section. I'm going to include some other thing. I'm going to include another contact form and stuff along those lines. And I can now go ahead, easily copy this whole thing, and I can go into Webflow and I can paste it. So generally, I mean, this feature is good, but overall, it is just horrible in terms of using the plugin and obviously copying any of your design elements or any designs that you've created directly to Webflow, because you would have to manually do things. And for things that are obviously within the larger frame, you would have to manually go one by one and actually paste them. And we're going to experiment that and experience that hopefully soon. So we're going to try now our last plugin here, which is Wix, or as I like to call it, Israel. So we're going to go ahead and run it. And let's see what it actually asks me. So it says, okay, do you want to set up export? Yes, I do want to set up export. It's saying connect this file to WixStudio. Okay, let's go ahead and actually connect it. We're going to go to WixStudio. Here is WixStudio. We're going to go here. We're going to say some tools. We're going to say import from Figma, and then it's going to ask me of the link. So connect the Figma URL. So here is the URL. I'm just going to connect it. And then let's see what happens. It's going to ask me for authentication. I'm going to say, sure, I want to allow access to it. And okay, it says something is connected. So thankfully that is connected. I'm going to say I'm done connecting my file, and I'm going to start exporting. So it's going to say, what do you want to do? Do you want to export certain styles? Do you want to export frame, or do you want to export or use wireframes? This use wireframes feature is very similar to what we just demoed in Webflow. So we're actually just going to try that. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and show this to you right now. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to open this wireframe kit that we have. And then once we're on this kit, I mean, we can go ahead to any of the sections that we have, hero, navbar, whatever it is. I'm just going to copy this section and I'm going to move it into my document or my file that's linked. And I'm going to say, I want to go ahead and actually, I can export styles as well, which we're going to get into later, but I just want to export this frame. I'm going to say export frame. And now if I head back to my file here, as you can see, this frame is going to show up here, hopefully. It already was there, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it's here. So now I can just say add to site. I can add it as a page, or I can add it as a section. I want to say I want to add it as a section. And it's just going to add that particular thing that I just copied or imported directly here. So I think this is very simple. We can do the same thing with any element here. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to say that I want to export this. Once I do that, I'm going to open my Figma here. I'm going to say refresh import, and then it's probably going to show me that particular section that I just copied, which is here. So I'm going to say add to add frame as a container or something, add frame as a section. I'm going to say add it as a section, and it's hopefully going to be there at the bottom. So I think compared to, let's say, Webflow, this is definitely much more simpler. Okay. So now let's get into the gist of it. What else do we actually want to cover first? Well, the first thing that we want to cover is actually importing these different things. So now the first thing that we're going to be doing here is we're going to be, give me 1 second, we're going to be importing this particular element directly in Framer first. So we're going to say Framer, and it's going to give us the Framer plugin, and we're going to go ahead and we are going to paste it here. And let's see how well of a job it does. I actually personally think this Framer did a really good job. I mean, this pretty much looks the same. The X icon, unfortunately, even though this was absolutely positioned, so it looks like it did not absolutely position this. So I can go ahead and I can move it absolute, and I can move it at the top. So unfortunately, it looks like it does not recognize absolute positioning in Figma. So that's one mistake that it has. But other than that, I think a good job it did. So that's like 8 out of 10 or something. Then coming to, let's say, the same thing in Webflow. I don't think Webflow is even going to work because we have an absolutely positioned element, or maybe it actually recognizes that and it's okay with that, but let's try it out. So I'm going to say copy. Unfortunately, it's not even going to allow me to copy. So I think I have to remove this particular button in order for this to work. Even then it doesn't work because maybe there are elements that are okay. Unfortunately, since this is a component, even removing it didn't really help. So now I have to remove it, and I have to remove this as well or something. I don't know. What other thing is this? Let's remove this. And now does it allow me to copy it? No, it does not allow me to copy it. Now I have to imagine manually doing that for so many different things. And I'm definitely not going to do it. So Webflow has already failed the race for me, at the very least this conversion thing, because you cannot convert your designs directly from Figma to Webflow, unfortunately, because of this horrible mess that they have. So Webflow is out of the race. We're not going to be covering, well, actually we may be covering some of the other elements, like for example styles and text variables, but the comparison between the conversion of designs from Figma to Webflow is not even in the picture. So now let's go to Wix Studio. So we're going to go ahead here. We're going to say skip the setup because we already have it. We're going to say I want to export this frame. I'm going to click on export frame. I'm going to go here and I am just going to go ahead and delete this. And let's go to Figma. Let's say I'm going to refresh the import because I recently imported something new. And I think it recognizes something. So I'm going to say I want to add this as a stack. And hopefully it is going to be here somewhere. So it's here and I can barely see it, I guess, but it's here. It did a good job. I don't know where the X icon went. Actually, I accidentally deleted it. So let's just add it back again and see how it actually does with the X icon. So I'm going to export it again. Let's go ahead, delete this section. Actually, I don't have to delete the whole section. Let's go to layers and just delete this particular thing that I copied inside. Let's go to Figma and test it out. Okay, I want to add this as a stack inside of this container, which seems reasonable. And now it's here and the X icon is here. So in terms of conversion, it's doing pretty much the best job compared to everything else. So let's just see how it actually placed the X mark. So here is the X mark and it has placed it on the top and right. The position is default. Did it actually convert this into, well, it is doing some job well, and I think comparatively it's doing really well. However, if we have a look at this button, it actually had a particular height and width. Unfortunately, that does not exist here, so it's removed. It unfortunately just went ahead and included the vector art. However, when we go to Framer and we have a look at this particular button that I just imported, everything got imported fine. It just doesn't recognize the absolute positioning. So in my opinion, Framer wins this. Because even though it ignored the absolute positioning, it at the very least preserved the layer stuff. It preserved the padding, which unfortunately Wix did not preserve. So Figma or Framer maybe 8 out of 10, WixStudio 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10, and Webflow 0 out of 10. Okay, so that's that. Now let's go back to Figma and try to import something a bit more complex. Let's go ahead and actually try to import this. Obviously, again, Framer first. So we're going to copy this whole thing. And it's copied, so definitely it doesn't take a lot of time. And then we're going to go ahead and paste it here and let's see what happens. So definitely good, but unfortunately it again, I think, did not consider maybe some of the absolute positioning or something. What did it actually not consider? So we have an auto layout here. This is the image, and then we have this. How, okay, is this absolutely positioned? It doesn't seem like this is. There's a negative spacing in the auto layout, which I don't think Figma, or sorry, Framer even provides, or any other tool. Actually, it did went ahead and apply it, but obviously it doesn't work. A gap of minus negative 32 does not work. Purely just even in CSS, I think it doesn't work. So, I mean, it did a good job. So let's just go ahead and delete that. Let's try WixStudio again. So we're going to go to WixStudio We're going to say we want to set up an export. We don't actually have to set up an export. We're just going to export this frame. Click on it, click export frame. So WixStudio is comparatively really fast as well. So let's just go ahead and delete this. We're going to go back here. We're going to say refresh the import. And we have this, and we're going to add this to the site. I can already see that it did a better job than Framer at the alignment of the image on top of this particular banner or whatever. But apart from that, I think it basically messed up the whole design. So we can preview it. Scroll obviously isn't working. The design is messed up, and I don't really know what's going on. How did it actually mess up so much? Maybe this is actually related to the height of the element. It didn't really actually do the height properly. I'm not here to fix these things actually. I'm just here to show the immediate result. Obviously, we can go ahead in any tool. We can fix these things. So we have a stack. We have this particular line. Let's just go ahead and actually remove this line. And if we just manually go ahead and resize it, obviously it's not going to be that big of a deal, but it didn't even give me the shadows and stuff along those lines, which I got in Framer. So Framer definitely is doing miles ahead compared to these tools. Let's just go ahead and now quickly, without making the video extremely long, go do the desktop design. And again, very similarly, let's just do the Framer first. Now we have a lot of layers, so this may actually take a bit more time, a lot more time than anticipated. But let's just see. Just to keep it real, I'm going to show you how long it actually takes. I think it probably took just about like 5 seconds or 10 seconds at max. So let's go ahead, delete that. Let's also see what the size of the frame is, 1440. So we're just going to make that the same, just to be slightly just. And I'm also going to make this whole thing an auto layout. So anything that I add, basically it automatically occupies the whole height so we can see it. And then now it's trying to import these things. And it has imported, at the very least it's telling me that. So we have this, and we're going to go here, we're going to say fit content for it to occupy the whole screen. So now if we preview this, we have something like this. Unfortunately, obviously the background is messed up. Apart from the background, I think it did a good job. Obviously there's not a good job done here. These things are basically misaligned, but still not too big of a problem. If we obviously go ahead to this particular thing, to this background, as we already know, it does not consider the absolute positioning, so it messes things up. So if we do that absolute positioning, that's much better. This particular, what is this? Is this, okay, that's that. And this is a section. Why is this section taking so much space? Didn't we have some sort of a max width or something along those lines here? So we have a fixed width of 1400. There's a container inside of it that is filling the container, and then there's a padding on. Is there a padding, or is there actually a max width applied to it? So there's a fixed width of 1280. So if we go here, I don't think it actually gives the minimum or maximum width. Unfortunately, it did not give a width. It's just filling the container. This is also filling the container, but it actually has a fixed width applied to it. So unfortunately, if we were to just, let's say, detach it so you can see it. So I'm going to detach it. We're going to go here. As you can see, it says fill container here. That's fine. This is also, sorry, filling the container, but there's a max width here. As you can see, previously it wasn't available, but it is now. So the max width definitely did not get applied here. So not the best, but still okay. I mean, obviously compared to Webflow, everything's okay right now. So now we're going to do the same thing for WixStudio. So there you go. I'm going to set up the export. Sorry, why am I doing this again? I'm already done connecting my file. I want to start the export. I want to export this frame. And let's see how long WixStudio takes compared to Framer. This is definitely, I feel like, taking a bit more time. One great thing about the Framer import or export mechanism is it actually shows you a progress, like 10 out of 1000 or whatever it is. So you have an idea of how long it's going to take. But let's go ahead and actually export it. Let's go back to here. We're going to delete the header. Actually, we don't even have to delete it. We can go here, we can refresh the import, and we can say we want to export or import this whole design as a new page. So as a new page, it already did that. Figma reference width is missing, so never mind. We're just going to go ahead and add that to the site. Or I'm still anticipating that it actually may just do it any moment now. So fortunately it did it. And I have to honestly say, this is definitely much more better than Framer. Obviously, I'm not even going to compare the responsiveness, but even responsively, it's doing well. One thing that I feel like it does really bad, like Wix does really bad responsively, it tries to scale things proportionately, which can be good sometimes, but obviously that's not how CSS or HTML works. You don't really scale things. You don't really scale the fonts and stuff along those lines. Rather, you wrap them. But still, I mean, as a first impression, the alignment, stuff along those lines is definitely much better. So here we are. Now coming to the last thing that I have to cover in this video, which is importing the styles. Unfortunately, Framer is way behind on this. Framer still does not offer or give me the opportunity to actually go ahead and import this color. I have no way of doing that, so Framer gets 0 in this domain. But when we talk about Wix, I can go ahead and I can directly go ahead and import these colors. I can select the whole frame and it's automatically going to detect all of these different styles and colors, even the variables, even the styles. I think it may even detect images. So if I was to go here and if I, let's say, just grab this image, I'm going to copy this image, I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to say this is going to be my image style. Let's go ahead and make it an image style and see if it actually fetches the image style. Unfortunately, it did not, but I mean, whatever it is doing, it's doing it much better than some of the other plugins. So it definitely wins there as well. So we go ahead and export the styles. We're going to come to Figma. We're going to say refresh import. And let's see what exactly it is importing now. It's importing all of these styles. I can say apply styles to site. And it's going to say, do you want to do something about the fonts? I don't really want to do something about it. Just want to try one thing. So when I try to copy this heading, when I try to copy, let's say, a rectangle that basically has the yellow color, I just want to see if it actually inherits those things when I'm importing them based on the styles that are actually available to it, available to Wix. So we're going to go here, we're going to say we want to refresh the import, and we're going to go ahead and actually just place it. So we're going to say add to site, and hopefully it's going to add it to the container. So here we have a look at it. As you can see, it's picking from the theme color, and let's go to the text right now. And it is now picking this text, I think, as well. So as you can see, this is picking the heading 3. So I think this was also heading 3. Actually, this was heading 1. I don't even know what happened. Why is this picking heading 3? I am honestly confused as to what exactly happened, but never mind, it's actually doing something. So that's that. Now coming to just this comparison on Webflow. So since Webflow offers that, so we're going to go and we're going to choose Webflow here, and we're going to go to its design system sync, and we're going to first of all open the project. It asks you to open the project in Webflow, go to applications in order to use it, and then you have to launch it here, and then you have to come here, and then okay, it says it's connected. So now we're going to say I want to continue, and it's going to fetch if there are any components here. So that's great. That's something that doesn't exist there, I think. And then it's also going to fetch any variables that are there. So it's fetching the color variables. It does not fetch, I think, unfortunately, I don't even know if I have any text variables. So it's fetching the color variable, so that's good. It doesn't fetch the styles, and it doesn't fetch the styles, obviously, for typography as well. So all of that's a bummer, but it, at the very least, is working with variables. So yeah, I think that's generally it. If I was to obviously import it now, I can see those variables in the variables panel. As you can see, it says, okay, imported it. And now we can see those variables directly here. So that's all well and good. And we can also compare by just including something. I mean, I don't even do the import thing because it's so horrible in Webflow, so I'm not even gonna try to do that. So that's pretty much it for this video. I mean, I would love to know what you actually thought about the video, whether there are certain tools that I've missed or certain capabilities of these tools that I've missed in the conversion process. I know these tools are very broad and very expansive in their functionality. My favorite tool probably right now is Framer. But the purpose of this video was just to do a comparison on the conversion rather than the tools themselves. That's pretty much it. Do subscribe, do hit the bell icon, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.